This is the Healthy Business Podcast, the show for ambitious business owners who want to grow and scale in a healthy way. I'm Sarah Cook, and I'll be sharing with you tips, inspiration, and proven methods from leading business experts, entrepreneurs, and health and wellness professionals to help you grow your business with more income and having more impact, but in a way that works for you. Because when you have clarity and strategy, you can achieve the results you want. Hello, I'm Sarah Cook, and today's episode is all about building awareness, getting visible, and growing your audience. It's probably one of the biggest things that I hear from clients, and that's exactly why I want to talk to you about it today, because we want to look at growing your audience, we want to get more visible, and we want more clients. It is literally one of the biggest questions that I get asked all the time, how to get more visible, how to grow your audience, because not only is it the way that people are going to find about you, about your products, your service, it's also a way of building awareness. Now, we need to do that if we are looking to grow and scale our business. It's such an important thing because it's right at the top of the marketing funnel. So when we're looking at our marketing funnel, it is all about awareness. It's about people becoming aware of you and then how we can push them through that funnel so that they can buy from you because they've built that trust, they've built that relationship, and that all comes from nurturing. And that is about building this relationship where they need to understand who you are, how you can help them, really see whether you are the right person that is going to help them get the result that they want before even trying to convert them. So many people go straight into trying to sell to people. And what happens is that we end up pushing people away when that happens because we push, and we push them away. So we all know that your offers are amazing. Your services are amazing. You've got fabulous products. And we know that those are going to help your potential clients. But if your ideal client in your audience doesn't know about those, they don't know about you, then they're just not in a space to be able to buy from you. So what we really need to do is to reach our target audience. We need to draw them in, and we do that by increasing your visibility. So today I'm going to talk to you about how you can stand out in a busy social media world. I'm going to talk about the type of content to share, when to post it, and also where to post it, because all of those different areas are so important. And it's not about selling all the time. It really is not about pushing your products and services onto your audience, onto these people. Because in this busy social media world that we live in, so many people are trying to do that and things get missed. And we know that. So what we need to do is we need to make sure we're standing out. We need to make sure that we're visible. And we want to do this in a really credible way, because actually we want people to reach out to you rather than you necessarily pushing your stuff onto them. So I'm guessing your next question might be, when you're listening to this, is how do we actually stand out in this busy world? So there's a few different ways that we can do this, and branding is a big first step as part of that. So we're going to look at that, and then we're going to look at consistency. And I also want to touch on language as well. Okay, so 3 different areas that we're going to be looking at. Now, when we're looking at our branding, this is about you, this is about your business. And for most of us, we are our own businesses. Our clients book with you because they want to buy from you. They want that service from you. They want that product from you. So when we're looking at standing out, we really have to make sure that we have a visual identity, that look, that feel that people really resonate with. And that enables people to recognize you. So when they're scrolling through in their social media content, they're flicking through their emails, we want them to stop and actually read your content, because that's where we want to connect with people. So this comes across from looking at the colors you use, your font types, your imagery, the photography, your lifestyle, your packaging, your messaging. A branding is not just about a logo. So it all ties into this bigger piece around visual identity. And your brand is really that reputation as to what people remember you for. It's not necessarily the actual logo. So as part of this, we're seeing, if you're seeing people in person, whether it's a one-to-one, maybe it's a group workshop, wherever that place is that they're coming to see you, that has to be consistent with your branding as well. We want to have this kind of 360 feel where everything that you do feels very consistent, feels very familiar to your brand. So talking about consistency, the reason that we want to have this consistent look and feel is that consistent branding builds trust. It builds emotional connections with people. So when clients start seeing content from you, or potential clients start seeing things from you, they know that it's from you, and they're much more likely to stop the scroll. They're much more likely to stop and actually read that content because they know it's something from you and they want to learn more from you. They want to connect with you. So it might be, as I said, it might be that sort of consistent colors, the imagery, the font style that you're using. It might even be just a little logo that you put in the corner of your images. It might be that you have your social media handle on your tiles or your imagery as well. So something that is a visual cue that people stop and they scroll and they really recognize you, your brand, your business, your offers. Because we all know that confusion leads to inaction. So a confused mind will never buy. We know that this leads to doubt. We know that that actually means that they're going to stay stuck because they're not buying, because they're not sure what they should be buying. So having consistency means that we're going to overcome that confusion. And in this online world that we now live in, it takes around 22 to 27 times for somebody to connect with you, for somebody to see you from that very first time before they're going to want to buy from you. So that's a really, really big number of times that people need to see things and connect with you before they're actually going to buy from you. So it's really important that we remember that. So don't worry that it can be 22 to 27 times for someone to see you before they actually become a paying client, because in this digital world, it's actually a lot quicker and a lot easier to do than it was many years ago, back when I was in brand marketing and everything was offline. So we're in a really good position to be able to connect with our ideal clients, our audience. And that's why consistency is really important, even if you don't feel like anyone is engaging or responding, because consistency is not the same as constancy. And I totally know that that's a made up word, but it totally fits with where I'm talking about. So being consistent is not the same as being constant. You don't need to be putting out content all the time. You don't need to be on every single platform. But being consistent is what we're aiming for, because there's no point in posting something or posting regularly for several days and then disappearing for weeks before you then post something else, because your audience will move on somewhere else. Your dream clients are action takers. They want to get results. So people need that consistency. They need that trust building. Otherwise, it's going to take them a lot longer for them to have those connection points and really build that relationship with you. So it also, I guess, then affects the length of time it's going to take them to go through that marketing funnel, from when they first get to know you, to building that trust with you, to being that relationship with you, before they're actually going to want to part with their money and buy from you. So we have to keep posting regularly. We need to get into their email boxes consistently, and that's really important. Now, if that's sounding a little bit overwhelming, then I want you to think about what consistency feels good for you to start. And then once you're in that habit, then we can start building into different places. So thinking about your consistency, thinking about what you can do, thinking about how you can show up, you're much better being consistent from a perspective of what feels good for you. So as I said, this isn't about sort of posting once and then leaving it for 3 weeks. There's no point in doing a flurry of posts over a couple of days and then nothing. Similarly, if you're looking at doing blogs and being visible that way, if you're updating your website, Google actually doesn't like it. So if you're doing 3 blogs in 1 month and then you don't post anything for 6 months, that's not going to go down great from a Google search perspective. So really thinking about your consistency, what feels good for you, making sure that you are sticking with that, making sure that you can show up and being consistent with your audience, and they will start looking out for things as well. So the third thing that I want you to think about, I was going to say talk about, because it's very much about language. So this is about your tone of voice. This is about how you want to come across, whether you want to be that friendly, approachable person. Maybe it's about being an authority in your audience. Maybe it's about being, I don't know, informal or friendly and fun. Think about what your brand stands for. How you want to come across is just as important as what you put out there. So really thinking about the messaging, thinking about the language, thinking about the energy that goes behind it, the type of words that your audience uses that they're going to resonate with. They're much more likely to connect and I suppose build that relationship with somebody with words that they understand, phrases that they use themselves, especially if you're talking about the problems that they have or the solutions that they're looking for. So thinking about how we can draw these people in, we want to really think about that language. Have some kind of headline or a statement that really catches their attention. Think about what's going to draw them in when they're reading the social media post or when they're reading an email. drawing them into reading that blog post, whatever it is that you're doing, even if it's an audio or a video piece of content. What's the headline? What's going to create that intrigue and want them to stop and actually listen or read? Because that connection point is the first step. So you want to be thinking about it from your ideal client's perspective. So when you're creating that content, you want to get into the brain space of that ideal client and think about, okay, I'm going to be attracted to this person. She's talking my language. This is really important to her. It's really important to me. This is exactly what I need. Right now, I'm going to have to read this because this is something that I really need to know about. We want to get into that headspace so that we can create content that actually is relevant and means something to that ideal client. It's really important that we have some sort of attention-grabbing headline, that statement piece that's going to draw the right people towards you. Those are the people who are your ideal client, and they're the ones who want to read your content, not just your friends and family who are doing it because they want to help you out. Okay, so when we're thinking about what to post, you want to keep this super, super simple. You don't want to use long or overcomplicated words or descriptions. Don't want to use technical terms. We want to give you credibility, of course, but what we don't want to do is, I suppose, alienate people where they just don't understand what it is that you're talking about. So we have to stay relatable. So really recommend here that you're keeping your language as simple as possible, the language that the ideal client uses themselves. So as a complete example, when I was back as a health therapist, if I was to talk about muscle names or the muscle types, talking about the trapezius muscle, that's not what common people use. That's not how they describe the type of area that they're talking about their stress and pain. They're much more likely to identify with me if I said something like, do you suffer with neck and shoulder pain? Or, do you have lower back pain? Thinking about how they used, or the words that they're using to describe things, the way they're using to describe how they're feeling and how they want to feel. So keep your words simple. Don't overcomplicate things with jargon or really difficult descriptions or acronyms, because your audience just isn't going to resonate with it. They've got a problem, they want it solved. Your dream clients are action takers, so they need to know that you are the right person for them, that you are that expert that actually is relatable as well. So we have to talk about things in a way that means something to them, which is why we need to keep it super simple. So we all know that you're super qualified in what you do. And with that, we can share the empathy. We can show that we understand how they're feeling and how they want to feel. It doesn't have to be going into that level of detail of all the descriptions, all the jargon that you might have spent weeks, months, or even years learning about in your qualifications or experience. So I really want you to think about value here, really thinking about what it is that your ideal clients want to hear, want to watch, want to read. So whatever content it is that you're creating, think about the tips, the value, the how that you can help them. You don't need to give them all the details. So if you're worried about giving too much away for free, or too much information away for free, remember the phrase, give the what for free, give the how for a fee. Okay, so you can explain things, you can share things, you can give some tips, but actually people come and work with you or they buy your products and services because they need that extra support. They need maybe that accountability. They need something that is truly going to work for them, that's going to collapse time. That means they don't have to do it on their own, because that's where they're overwhelmed. That's where their worry comes in. Sometimes it's about not trusting themselves. And now that's a really important thing to remember. So if you're worried about giving too much information away, remember that you actually maybe can't give too much information away, because people still need that support. The world of Google means that we can access so much information, but the way you deliver it, the way you package it, the way you put together your products and service, that's unique. And that is the bit that people want to have connection to. That's the bit that they want to pay to have access to, because you are that expert. You can tailor things, you can support them in a way that Google can't. They want to know that you have got enough credentials, of course, enough of that understanding to really help them with their problem, to really give them that solution that they're looking for. But what do you want to be known for? What do you want to stand for? How do you help your audience? Thinking about that is really going to help you create content that talks to people in the way that you want to attract your ideal client. You might think about some published articles for your industry, or something that you've seen in the media that you can share in a way that also talks about your products and services. So it's not just you saying that you're good at what you do or how your products and service work, This is about, the credibility side of things from an industry perspective. Perhaps it's product demonstrations, maybe it's behind the scenes of things, you walking the talk, how your products and services work, how you utilize things, how you put into action what you're talking. Awareness days are a brilliant thing as well to help you create content. Think about what's going on in the media. How do we make what you do relevant? Well, if it's people are talking about things in the media, then of course it's going to be relevant. So how can you link that to your business to create some content that is really valuable to them? I think the other part of this is when we're looking at what to post, really thinking about how you can build that trust, that credibility, that value that you can give to your audience. So right at the start, I talked about the marketing funnel. And at the start, we have people coming into our audience. They are just becoming aware of you. And that's the bit that we have to build the trust. We have to build that credibility. We have to get them to go through that marketing funnel for them to convert. So they need to know you. They need to maybe see that little bit of insider bit around your story. Now, you don't have to share what's and all about you and everything that you've been through and your experience, your journey. It could even be something that you've done today. Thinking about how you can best relate to them, sharing things, what you've been doing over the last few months, or maybe there's something relevant to your audience that you could share with them about what you've been up to. So bearing all of that in mind, I would always recommend waiting until you're out of the wound rather than in the wound, so to speak. So if you've got a lot of stuff going on, or if you're feeling really heavy, you're feeling quite negative emotionally, you're just not in a great space, I wouldn't necessarily share that with your audience, especially the warts and all, because people want to come to you because they respect you, they want their solution, and they want to be sure that you can help them with their solution. Your dream clients want to be inspired. They want to be given hope about what's possible. They don't want to come to you and have more problems. So yes, of course, share part of your story about what's going on for you, but I'd really recommend you waiting until you've come out the other side so that you can share the learning from it rather than in that space of struggle. You can share how you've dealt with it. You can be even more relatable, be even more empathetic, and how you've coped with things, what steps you've taken to go through that. Really share that understanding piece. That's where you can connect with them about what you do, how you help them, but also that you've been on that journey yourself. That is so much more inspiring, and you're actually going to attract the right people to you rather than people who are in that stuck and struggle place that you're not in there too. It doesn't even have to be big stuff either. It doesn't need to be the heavy stuff. It might be, I don't know, it could be what you've been eating that day. So if you're a nutritionist, people love to know what you're eating. If you're in that exercise space, share what exercise you do. People want to know all of this because that's the bit that inspires them. That's the behind the scenes, the lifestyle choices that you're making to show that you can help them too. So you can share your stories, you can share elements of your journey, how you do things. Now, PR is another really great thing that can help build trust and credibility. So if you've been featured, it could be awards, it could be in articles, it could be local press, it could be radio, TV, really thinking about how you use that. So if you've had press from months or even years ago, you can of course still share that. You don't need to just share it in the moment and then forget about it, because that's the trust. Even on your social media banners, your email footers, your website, you can still share things that have happened. You can have trust tags, so you can share the logos as featured in, that kind of thing. So testimonials and client wins are also an amazing way to build trust and credibility because it's social proof. It's not just you saying that you're good at what you do, because we know that already, but it's other people saying that you're good at what you do. And that's the key part of this. That can often be the sort of golden ticket, as it were, that tipping point of getting people from being interested to actually converting. So testimonials, case studies are amazing. They absolutely are like gold dust because it shows that you're capable of helping people and getting the results that they want, especially if you can get some testimonials that really speak to the client's problems, or even better, to the solutions that they're looking for as well. So to get those types of testimonials, rather than just someone saying, oh, Sarah was really nice, she, was great to work with, think about how you can ask the questions in a way that leads the testimonial to answer those questions in a way that is actually useful for you. So don't forget to share the information of your packages, your services, your products. because your audience need to know all of that. They need to know what you offer. They need to know how they can work with you. So it's all well and good sharing value, and absolutely it should be, and the majority of your content should be sharing value. But we still need to know, or your audience still needs to know, how they can buy from you, what it is that you actually are selling them. And we don't want every single post to be a sales post, but we do need to make sure that they know how to work with you, how they can buy from you. So think about your call to actions. Is it that you want to drive people to a website? Is it that you want to start a conversation with them? Or is it that you want to get them to read a blog? There's so many different call to actions that you can put in there. So potentially looking at how you can mix things up so you're not just selling to people all the time, looking at when to post, what to post, but also considering how you're posting it as well. So thinking about your ideal client, thinking about when is the best time to post. Now, I've talked about being consistent rather than constant, but the more you post, the more likely you're going to get seen. It is that sort of numbers game to a certain extent. So whilst I'm not suggesting that you should be posting 4 times one day and then nothing for the rest of the week, think about how that consistency could work. That's what's going to create that consistent algorithm. That's how you can work with social media. But when we're talking about the when, it goes down to your ideal client, when they're most likely to be active, because that's going to increase your reach. It's going to increase the potential for engagement. So as an example, if you are targeting busy mums, they are most likely to be online first thing in the morning before the kids get up, checking their social media, maybe after the school run, maybe at lunchtime if they're working in their lunch hour, and also in the evenings after the kids have gone to bed, they finish work, they've eaten their dinner, and they're just having that downtime. They start scrolling. So that's a really great time to be posting your content. You can also schedule your content so that it goes out at those key times. So you don't necessarily need to actually be posting yourself or even getting up super early to post if that's not your natural rhythm. You just want to be aware of when your ideal client is online, that is the best time for you to be posting, because that's when your content is likely to get seen and is going to have a positive impact and effect on your reach and engagement. So we've talked about consistency, we've talked about the types of content. So going live, this is a big one, right? Like lots of people first going live, doing video, they can find that really difficult. And I know I found that super, super scary when I first did it, but it is the number one best way of people getting to know you, because they get to hear your voice, they get to see your mannerisms. You are your biggest strength. You are your biggest asset. People are buying from you. They want that connection with you. So if your ideal client likes video, they are watching you, they're much more likely to be attracted to work with you. Potentially also, they might even share that video content. So if you're sharing some great content, then they're going to be commenting. They might even share that to the wider audience. They might tag people. So that's going to help spread your messaging even further. Really important to remember that video is seen by Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn as the king of content. So the more you do, it's going to improve your algorithms. So really considering the type of content you want to do. Now, another great thing about video is that you can repurpose it. So, you might have done or decide to do one video a week, for example. You can then break that down into repurposing it. So if you're listening to this and thinking, gosh, all of this sounds super overwhelming, I've got loads of content to create, how on earth am I going to fit that in? I didn't start a business to be doing all this marketing content. Now, firstly, I want to reframe that into content leads to conversations, which leads to conversions. So it is a great free opportunity to be attracting your ideal client. So if we view it as lead generation, it becomes a very different content creation rather than just, it's another thing I feel like I should be doing in my business. Okay, so repurposing can, from a video perspective, you can take sound bites from it, you could do some still visuals, you could turn it into a blog, you could break it down into social media posts, so many different ways that you can repurpose one piece of content. And it is about feeling consistent, because I know it can feel quite overwhelming when you're trying to create a whole load of things. So to make it easier, why not create one bigger piece of content and look at how you can turn that into lots of smaller pieces? So it could be a video or it could be a blog piece of long copy that you can then map things out across your week or even your month. And that brings me on to planning, because, making sure that you're planning out your content. Ideally, you want to plan some sort of content and maybe even a month in advance. You don't need to write it all out that far in advance, of course, but ideally you want to know what you're selling, because when you know what you're selling, you can then create the content that's going to help you sell that. So if you're focusing maybe even for the next quarter ahead, that's really the ideal, that you know exactly what it is that you're focusing on month by month, so that you don't go into that sporadic posting, you don't go into scattergun. We're really intentional with our time and our content because we know that it's leading up towards whatever it is that we're selling. Because then you can reverse engineer that. You can break it down into key topics, you can break it down into key areas, and then you can write it once. And once it's written, you can then schedule it, meaning that you're not having to focus and get clarity on your message every time. We don't want people to be confused because we know that confused message is actually going to lead to people not buying. So really thinking about that focus, that clarity, your messaging, keeping that consistency across whatever you're putting out there means that you're going to take people through that marketing funnel in a much smoother way, but also a lot faster way. They're much more likely to buy from you a lot quicker as well. Okay, so we want to think about where we're posting, and we don't need to post everywhere. This is such a big myth when people talk about being visible, is that we need to be everywhere and we need to be everywhere all the time. Now, I'm a big believer in being super intentional with our time, and we're all busy. We didn't come into business because we want to be marketing all the time. And we certainly didn't come into business because we want to be on social media all the time. And that's me saying that with a marketing and business background. So, yes, I work in business. Yes, I'm a marketeer. And I'm advocating that you do not spend all your time doing marketing all the time, because you're here to serve your clients. We don't want to be on every single platform. We don't want to be creating content all the time. This isn't what it's about. This is about being super intentional with your time. It's about showing up in the right places with the right message at the right time, where your ideal client is showing up, but also where you enjoy. Business should be fun. So we know that social media is a huge part of people's lives. That's not going to change anytime soon. Facebook is still the biggest medium, and there's nearly 2 billion people that are active users on Facebook. So it's highly likely that your audience is on Facebook in some way. However, your client might spend time on other platforms, so places like Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest. So if those places feel like the right places for you and for your ideal client, then spend time on there. Think about testing stuff, thinking about where you look for information on things. Where does your ideal client look for information on things? We definitely don't want to spread yourself too thinly. So it is really about being intentional, getting super focused, and maybe starting with just one or two platforms, building that up at any one time, really nailing those, growing your audience on those first of all. And being great on one platform is so much better than having minimal appearance on lots of different platforms. That's really not what this is about. It's about being intentional. It's about super proactive, really, really thinking about where it is, how you show up, how consistent you can be. But ideally, 2 platforms is perfect. And that's absolutely fine for you to be able to grow your audience, for you to build that visibility, for you to attract the right people into your audience as well. Think about where your ideal client hangs out. Think about some of the local groups, online as well as offline. Talking about being visible, it doesn't just have to be online. I've got clients that can't be on social media for personal reasons, and they are still growing and scaling their business because they're being intentional about where they're showing up. So think about where your ideal client is hanging out. Think about where you enjoy hanging out. Where is your audience? Thinking about other brands, other businesses that they might be interested in. What else is your ideal client doing? What are they likely to follow as well? Who are they likely to follow as well? So thinking a little bit outside of the box here, you don't just necessarily need to think about your industry space. So to give an example on this, maybe they drink coffee. Do they hang out in coffee shops? Could you get visible by putting some kind of flyer on a notice board within the coffee shops? Or even if you're looking at online, could you do some hashtags on Instagram that are about coffee shops? Could it, I don't know, maybe let's think about broader perspective. Who is your ideal client? What are they interested in? What other brands, what other products are they interested in? Where could you show up that cuts through when they're searching for something in a slightly different industry that they're also interested in as well? Where could you be visible in and around different spaces that are slightly outside of the box, but you know that your ideal client is hanging out in as well? Thinking about networking groups, online, offline, where could you potentially test out as well? You could join that if you know your ideal client is going to be there. Lots of network groups also have guest expert sessions. So you could maybe do a bit of training. You could show up as the expert. You could share some value. That's a great way for you to connect your ideal client, to grow your audience, but also to bring them into your world as well. So also remember, and I think this is a really big one, because people are on social media for social reasons. They want to be entertained. They want to be, have that sort of informal sort of connection with people. They're not necessarily searching for you. So it's about finding that balance, being really targeted. And that's why we want to look at what your interests are, but also what your audience interests are, like that coffee shop example that I just gave. So if you're there and you're sort of popping up on a coffee shop feed, you're going to be coming into it and they're going to be intrigued. They're going to be looking for things. You're taking yourself out of your industry, out of your zone of genius, which is something that they're interested in anyway. So you're going to stand out. And that's really what we're wanting from this. So being targeted, being in the right place, the right time, the right messaging, create that content that is going to create conversations, because that is going to create conversions. Being intentional with where you are, what you're doing is really, really key. So hopefully that's been helpful. I would love to know your thoughts on this. Drop me a message over on Instagram at Sarah Cook Coaching. Hopefully that has given you a little bit of food for thought about your visibility, how you create content. So leave a review for this podcast episode if it has been useful for you, or alternatively send the link to somebody who you might think would find this useful as well. Let me know your biggest takeaway. Drop me a message. I'm always on Instagram, ready and waiting to hear from you. I love hearing from the listeners of this show. I will see you on the next episode. Thanks for listening to the Healthy Business Podcast. You can get a copy of my best-selling book, Healthy You, Wealthy Business, over on my website, sarahcookcoaching.com/book. In there, you'll find practical advice, useful tools, and real actionable steps to help you be your best self and build a wildly successful business with ease, so that you can create a limitless life in the way that you choose.